Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle, and welcome to the National Parks Adventure, Crossing America. So Crossing America is a partnership with the National Park Foundation where we take students across America and we scrapbook the history, the science, the geography, and the stories. So thank you so much for being here today. And where are we? We are in Assateague Island National Seashore in Berlin, Maryland. And as you can tell, it is sleeting behind us. Yes, we're at the seashore and it is sleeting. But we would not want to be any other place today because we are excited to talk with not one, not two, but 3 rangers and 82 horses. So if they show up and scream, just wave hi when you see them. But let's start. Thank you so much, Anastasia and Matt and Liz, for having us here today. So real quickly, how did you get to the park, Anastasia?
Yeah, so I actually started getting into the park service by exploring a lot, traveling around, as well as when I first ventured to Assateague, I had heard about an internship available on the horse management. So I really enjoyed that team, and then that led me to my ranger position here today.
Well, we're excited, and we've already decided that we're going to be writing a children's book, Anastasia Rose of Assateague. So just be aware, we're going to start that. And then we have Matt. Now, Matt, you're the one that reached out to us first. How did you get to the park?
I got through the park through Bureau of Reclamation. I started off as a seasonal out in California, and I continued my seasonal career at Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, Acadia in Maine, and then I finally got a permanent position here at Assateague National Seashore.
Well, so a few call outs here. So Kate Petrie is our ranger friend at Acadia, and Jennifer Shackelford is our friend at Mammoth Cave. So
I know both of them, absolutely.
Yeah, the 6 degrees of the national parks here. So we sort of went in order of age, with me probably being the oldest. But then we have Liz. Now, Liz, you're a little different.
I'm the oldest.
You have been here since the horses came. No, not really, but what was your journey to the park?
I am over 300 years old. And no, my journey started, I was a first grade teacher. And I decided I would like to work in national parks during my summer break. So I applied to a couple parks and got a job here at Assateague Island in 1991, and I've been here ever since.
Well, we're glad you're here, and great job being a teacher first. We have a lot of teachers that watch this, and this is their dream job after they finish teaching, so you're giving them hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on, we need you. Absolutely. It's a great gig, and we hope we recruit.
Yeah, we'll be doing that. There'll be a little tagline run across at the bottom that you can get teachers, even though this is for kids today. So since this is for kids, Anastasia, actually, hey, Matt, let's talk to you first.
Okay.
What is the history of the park? I mean, this is a pretty amazing place. It's very cold right now.
Yes, it is.
That's why our lips are blue.
Yes.
But tell us about the history of the park.
So the weather is actually appropriate for Assateague Island National Seashore. We are a 37-mile-long barrier island, but it wasn't always 37 miles. It was actually longer. It stretched all the way up into Fenwick area. And this weather, different storms, basically helped create the islands and barrier islands in general. In 1933, a major storm came through. It breached the dunes and created an inlet kind of near Ocean City. And basically, people took advantage of that inlet. It's now a major fishing industry, and they basically built some jetties there, which keep the islands basically separated. In around 1960, 1961, There started being some big development plans to turn this into another ocean city. There's actually some old roads on the island, some old structures here, but a storm in 1962 said not so fast. Nature took its course, and it basically took all that infrastructure off of the island. And then in 1965, September 21st, Assateague Island became a national seashore.
Well, I'm glad it did.
Absolutely.
Now, there's also Assateague State Park that's part of this, just right over there.
Correct. Just a little bit up north, the Assateague State Park is about a 2-mile stretch. They are in charge of basically the Verrazano Bridge, and they have their own campgrounds, and they also help manage the horses, and they have their own policies. And then as far at their line, we go all the way down to basically the Virginia state line is where our borders kind of stop.
All right. So we talked about the history a little bit and how this park came to be, but I'm going to tell you something. We're here for the horses.
I understand.
Right,
a lot of visitors do come for the horses.
We're really excited to meet the horses from a distance. But Anastasia, we know that you know all the names of the horses here. And we're not going to put you on the spot to tell you to name all of them, but tell us about the horses here.
So there's 3 different stories on how the horses originally got here. One was a Spanish galleon that actually crashed off the coast of the island, and they were known to bring horses with them, so any surviving horses would have swam to the island, and they've kind of been able to populate since then. Another theory is that pirates used to roam the seas around here, and they would actually drop some of their horses along coastal islands and then basically didn't come back for them, right? And then another theory is that farmers from the mainland were trying to avoid a tax for having livestock and their fences up. So the island being a natural barrier with water all around would keep any livestock that they would place here and basically keep them and not let them roam off the island. So it's just a way for them to basically avoid any tax.
So hang on a second, kids. We want you to take a guess. So is it the ship? Is it the pirates, or is it the tax? So take a moment to talk to a neighbor and see if you can guess. We'll play a little Jeopardy music here. Da, da, da. But I want to know. So which one is it?
So there's not really like a particular set one that we go with, though the more plausible reason would be those farmers and they're avoiding the taxes.
And so now, because of one of those theories, but probably the taxes, there are how many horses here?
Currently there's 82.
And tell us about them.
So they kind of range size-wise. They're technically ponies. None of them really get to that 14.2 standard height for a horse. But genetically, they are horses. We did a genetic test years ago that showed that they're mainly horses, though they do have a small percentage of Shetland pony in them.
Okay. Well, it's sleeting right now, guys. It is cold out here. And I imagine it's cold, you know, some part of the year. So where do you stable these horses up? Is someone there now putting blankets on them?
So no, these horses completely wild. They get everything they need provided to them from the island. That includes their food, their water, and even their shelters. They'll hide in the forested areas under all the treetops and all, just block them from any wind, rain, sleet, stuff like that.
Well, I noticed when we first were setting up, Matt, that you were pointing out horses and naming them. Like, did you just come up with those names on your own? Or like, oh, he's Brown, I'll call him Brownie? Or how does that happen?
So it is true, the horses do have names. Through our partnership with AIA, they usually have auctions or a raffling that allows people to name horses if they win those auctions or rafflings. And each horse does get named, and we like to keep a good understanding of the names so we can track them and create different data and see their movements, who they are traveling with, and this allows us to kind of keep good record of them. And it also allows us to kind of look at their behavior and see what's happening in the developed area where a lot of people are hanging out.
Well, Liz, you've been here since the beginning of time, we said, but actually 30 years. What's your favorite part about this park? What makes this park so special? And I know I put you on the spot because you're probably having so many memories of this place, but
I do have a lot of memories, but I think the thing that stands out to me the most is, a barrier island is a moving, changing landform all the time. And, the day I set foot here, it's completely different than it looks today. And that's just really kept the job fresh year after year after year. Everything is moving and changing. Even, our visitors change, their interests. The horse's behavior can change over time. So it's, the only constant's been change, and that's been a great career. It sure has.
Do any of you have a favorite horse? We won't tell the others, but Matt, do you have?
I treat all the horses equally.
Well, there you go. Remember that, kids. We're all friends here. Are there any that are kind of more rambunctious than the others, or are they all pretty?
We're all scared to name names.
Because they could find you after this.
But yes, there are some that are rambunctious.
Yeah.
Yes.
And probably some leaders.
You got it.
Do you know what your oldest horse is here?
I think it's Precious.
I think so.
She's a mare and 33.
33.
Yeah.
Oh. So, obviously there's horses here and there's babies being born. So do you see this happening, or do you keep track of this? They live here, but you've got to have some kind of tracking of these dudes. So how does that happen?
So we do have a few biologists that work close with our park, and they actually do a horse census, and they'll go around and count all the different horses that are on the island here, as well as they'll also do some pregnancy tests and all to kind of track which ones might be pregnant. And usually we won't expect to see any foals between May and, late April, early May is usually when foals are born.
And I also heard, Liz, you talk about you work with a veterinarian, a local veterinarian that can help you out if you need it.
Well, the horses themselves are very resilient. So, most of, their behaviors and injuries and scuffles, we really don't get involved. It's when the injury is human caused that we'll call a vet. And, these things are not always easy to determine, but sometimes they're very obvious.
Right.
In which case, we'll get a vet to help us out with treatment.
Well, these are wild horses, right? They're feral. So we want to encourage people to come and visit, but we also want them to be very safe when they come here, just like they would be around a dog or a bear in the Great Smoky Mountains. So I'm assuming that there are some challenges that you guys face as a park, making the horses and the humans happy all the time. We come as the human here to see the horses, and we were driving through and watching horses, and I've been around horses, so my first instinct was to roll down the window and get a little closer, but you can't do that here. You have to be always thinking, because we're coming into their space. What are some of the guidelines or rules that we should follow when we're here?
Yeah, so we do we require people to stay 40 feet away at a minimum from the horses. They are wild, so they do bite and kick. But as far as there's also no feeding, no petting. So basically, if you're keeping that 40-foot distance, there's not going to be an issue as far as that feeding or petting rule anyway. So
I think 40 feet is about the size of a bus. I saw that on your
Exactly,
website.
bus length, yeah.
So obviously no feeding. What could happen though if I decide to put a carrot outside my window and the horse comes by? It's not good for the horse, right?
No, it is not good for the horse. And like you said, the horses are wild. So although we do name them and they do seem very docile, they are wild animals, and they will take advantage when food is accessible to them. That's why it's important when you do come here. We do allow food on the beach. We allow you to bring food into the campgrounds. It's always very important to store your food properly. Every campground does have picnic tables that have storage units in them. We do ask that you bring a cooler anytime you do bring food, and a strap that goes around that cooler, because the horses have learned to actually kick coolers open. They are very smart, and they will take advantage of any food opportunity that's out there.
Well, so will I. I mean, if you're looking for food and it's there and it smells good, I want the kids to know though, it's really not safe for the horses, because if they start depending on people food and then people aren't here for a while, they're going to forget how to forage their own food. So we have to be very mindful that this would just be a good neighborly thing to do, is take care of.
Absolutely. And sometimes, they will consume like garbage as they're trying to get food and stuff like that too. So it actually causes some belly and digestive issues as well. So it's definitely a problem if horses are getting into human food.
Well, that's going to lead us to our UN global goals. So there are so many going on in my head right now that we could connect to, but let's do 2 of them. First, let's do goal number 12, which was responsible consumption and production, which means we need to take care of our trash. We're going to pack it in, we're going to pack it out. A horse could get to a plastic container of Oreos and go through the Oreos and then also eat the plastic, and that's not going to be good. So when you bring your food here to this park, we want to make sure that you're keeping it in a cooler, strapped, and in places like your car or in these safety containers underneath picnic tables, which are so cool. That, like, who invented that? That's really cool. And then our second goal will be goal 15, which is life on land. We need to make sure that our human impact does not negatively impact any nature around us. There's erosion that happens here, so we need to stay off areas that you're protecting with sand dunes, right?
Absolutely.
We need to stay out of these areas where horses may feed, but we also want to make sure that our impact is not negatively impacting our horses. So this is where it gets really cool, guys. We know that kids are the best solution seekers.
Absolutely.
They don't have any preconceived ideas about failure. If they mess up, they're going to try again. We as old people, except for maybe you two, we're set in our ways sometimes, right? And we know that hadn't worked in the past, so we may not try it again. So your first global challenge with us for the first time ever is going to be about horses and how we can take care of the horses here and still allow humans to come and enjoy those horses. Now, these guys and a lot of really smart people that work with them are trying to come up with ideas, but they really want your help. What could you create that would encourage humans to do the right thing when they're here on the island to take care of the horses? What new types of contraptions could you build to work with their picnic tables? We found out that these little compartments work great, except for coolers are all different sizes, so sometimes coolers won't fit into those. What can we do to protect each other? Just say, hey, don't put your hands out the windows. When you come up with your idea, you're going to share it with us on social media. Remember to tag me at Dacia92, and then also tag the park. Look at the bottom here for their taglines. And we're going to share these with Liz and Matt and Anastasia. And guys, they're going to love your ideas. They're working hard, but sometimes they need extra help to come up with ideas. We can't wait to see what you create, because I want this place to be here for my great grandchildren. And we have to make sure that that happens by coming together and working on great ideas together. So we want to thank you so much for joining us today. But before we go, these rangers know that you want their jobs. We've already told them that. And some of them are close to giving their job up, right? So we're going to ask them to give you some advice. And Anastasia, we're going to start with you. You can look in the camera right there. What advice would you give these kids?
I definitely recommend volunteering, getting out and getting the experience out in the parks.
Matt, what about you?
I strongly recommend getting out and exploring, finding out what you love, finding your passion, and go and pursue it. What's really cool about the National Park Service is there is a job for everyone. There are jobs for divers, kayakers, history buffs. So find your passion, get out and explore, and you can become a park ranger.
I love that. Kayaking. That would be a cool.
Absolutely, wouldn't it?
Yeah, get paid to kayak.
Yes.
Okay, I know it's a hard job too. So. And Liz, what about you?
Well, I recommend, if you're traveling to national parks, become a junior ranger at that national park. Most parks have them. You have a great opportunity to learn all the cool ins and outs of every park you're visiting. Keep that with you. Store those with you, and as you go through high school and get into college, start thinking about internships, just like Anastasia mentioned. volunteer internships through the park or through the Student Conservation Association. There's a lot of opportunities and great experience, and that gets your foot in the door to work within the National Park Service in a variety of capacities. So.
Well, I love that. And we want you to get out into the national parks, and we want you to find your place in the park. I want to thank my 3 Rockstar Rangers here and the horses that made special appearances over here for letting us come today and be a part of this place. Kids, you know how much we think about you, and we really want you to know that you can solve problems. In fact, we are counting on you to solve problems. Thanks so much to the National Park Foundation for allowing us to be here today, along with my Rangers, Anastasia, Rose of Assateague, Matt, and Liz, and all the horses. On behalf of them, we thank you for coming. This is Dr. Drizzle, and we're out of here.